Hello, hello. This is Asad J Malik from Jadu. I just recorded a lovely podcast. We had a really wonderful conversation talking about augmented reality and the future of NFTs and engagement with the physical world. It was a great conversation. Hear about jetpacks and hoverboards and all kinds of retro futurism coming your way. Thank you.
Welcome to the Edge of NFT podcast with your hosts, Jeff Kelley, Eathan Janney, and Josh Kriger. We aim to bring you not only the top 1% of what's going on with NFTs today, but what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts and the business side, but also the human element of how NFTs are changing the way we interact with the things that we love. This podcast is for the futurists and dreamers, the disruptors and creators, the fans and connectors, and the makers and doers that are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
And today's episode, recorded right from NFT NYC, features Asad J. Malik, the CEO of Jadu. Asad launched Jadu in 2020 to make high-quality, lifelike AR accessible to all with a smartphone, introducing millions of people to AR through musical holographic performances, working with musicians and icons like Serena Williams, Lil Nas X, Josh Richards, Pussy Riot, and more. Asad was named one of Variety's 10 Innovators to Watch, Rolling Stone's Future 25, Forbes 30 Under 30, and Adweek's Young Influentials, and also made the Independent's Filmmakers to Watch list. He now sits on the board of trustees for Bennington College as a recent graduate. Jadu is a platform combining magic and technology to architect the Mirrorverse, an intersection of the metaverse and physical world. Asad, welcome to Edge of NFT.
Thank you. What an introduction.
Right?
Hey man, we've been pumped about this meeting, and we're here in Margaritaville for those of you listening.
Margaritaverse, as we wanted to call it.
Yeah.
We're turning it into. Can we trade? I'm sure. Did Jimmy Buffett trademark that yet?
I don't know, but we heard from Asad's team that Jimmy Buffett likes NFTs too. So I think it's an appropriate location. I think he would be excited to find out that we're filming this podcast today. But no, in all honesty, man, we're pumped about what you're doing since the moment we got an email from your team that you wanted to hang out with us for we've had Decentraland on the show, and we've talked about metaverses a lot, and you've come up with a really, really unique concept here that sold out in lightning fashion, and more importantly that it's held value and shown real utility. How did this idea come about?
Yeah, so, we've been doing augmented reality for a number of years. I think it's been around 5 years. And, we've been exclusively doing AR. Back when I started, AR, VR is how people would talk. They would just say AR, VR. Everything was AR, VR, right? Mm-hmm. We have never touched VR. We don't work in VR at all. We kind of insisted that AR is a medium on its own. It has its own unique properties, and what you can achieve with it is very different from what you can achieve with VR. So for the last 5 years, we've been kind of really focused on augmented reality, and really our obsession with it started at a point where it didn't really exist. People didn't really know what AR was at that time. There were a bunch of enterprise use cases, but AR as a creative medium wasn't really a thing that existed. Now it does, because of Snapchat and Instagram and filters. People are familiar with AR, but they're also familiar with a very limited kind of idea what AR is. And we didn't start from those limitations. We started from a very kind of limitless idea of this, being able to augment reality. So, Jetpacks, it's a long story, right? It's been 5 years of one project after the other, learning from the previous project, moving on, iterating. But the way we landed on Jetpacks recently was, we pretty much pivoted our company to be more Web3 centric. There are various factors that kind of went into that taking place. And,
number one, it's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's the story around my exposure to NFTs is that, Mac Boucher, who's on our team, he released the Grimes NFT on Nifty Gateway earlier this year that did $6 million in an hour, and suddenly we were like, okay, well, we've been searching for a business model for AR. Nothing has really made sense. I think a native Web3 company is a company that never had a business model in Web2. So since we could never find a Web2 business model, we were excited that maybe there's something here. And then I was actually directing my first music video for Pussy Riot, and we were going to release it. And we just very kind of spur in the moment, we were like, okay, we're going to release it on YouTube, but what if we also release it as an NFT? And we ended up doing that. And on YouTube, it made $50, and as an NFT, it made $500,000. And so we're like, okay, well, there is, we have to explore this further. And, I think over the last like 5, 6, 7 months, NFTs transitioned from being, we're making some art and selling this to some rich people because they somehow find some value in this token, to now like 90% of my own net worth is just in, images of animals. And so, kind of seeing that whole transition, as a company that's been trying to build an AR platform, and really we're competing with, the Microsofts and Magic Leaps of the world that are building hardware and are billion-dollar companies building hardware, who are great at what they're doing, building hardware, but are really like not culturally aligned with anything.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, interoperability is a challenge in space and a common topic, but you managed to make Jadu compatible with 40,000 different avatars, if I'm reading this correctly. Meebits, Fluffs, Cyberkongs, Chibi Apes, Voids. These are projects that are beloved, right? How did you pull it off?
Well, basically 4 or 5 months ago, I bought a Meebit, and that was the night where I was like, okay, what do I do with this? You're supposed to do things with this. Like, people are building stuff, but no one's building anything in AR. Why don't we try to see what we can do with Amoeba and AR?
Yeah, it's a win-win, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I got to justify the fact that I spent 3 on this asset. So at least let's right. Get that value. So we started playing with it, and we started kind of playing with this idea of a playable avatar, and started reaching just really good results. It felt very natural. AR, we always treated you, the player, was like, you were the character, right? Like, you didn't need another character to be engaging with your world. That was counterproductive to what AR was achieving on its own. But it felt good. It felt It felt tangible, didn't feel gimmicky. The characters are now running into walls, and they're, they can understand space more and more over time. They can use LiDAR, they can go down the staircase. So the use case started to feel pretty solid. And the idea was, okay, well, let's build a platform where we can bring all these avatar collections that are clearly going to have to be in 3D soon, and make them playable avatars, and then give them further items that they can use to do other things with and make the items. And so with that in mind, we're like, okay, what is a cool item we can make? And, the jetpack was kind of, initially we didn't think this was going to be the genesis item to our world and, this big deal. It was just, let's make some jetpacks for some avatars and, make a collection out of that. And obviously the whole process took a month or so. And then, when we were finally ready to put it out, it just ended up becoming a much bigger deal than we initially were thinking of it as. So the jetpacks are just like a really interesting horizontal item. They're not a primary item. They give additional utility to existing assets, and they also kind of put various assets on a unified playing field. And they kind of represent the app right now, because you can still use the app without the jetpack. It's just, if you have a jetpack, you're kind of natively tied to the app in a certain way, and you're kind of natively tied to its success. So that's kind of how we landed on jetpacks.
And we were talking about, you mentioned the Microsofts of the world, the Magic Leaps of the world that are going to be bringing, or are already bringing, hardware into play. And I feel like that is going to be a major inflection point when it's something that's accessible and usable. But we're not there yet. We're not really close at the moment, I don't think.
Yeah.
So there's this interim step where we have our phones, right? This amazing, processing capability here, and you have your app. And you've made updates to that, and you're continuing to do really cool things with it. And you're releasing, version 4.0 of the app now. Tell us about what that looks like, what's different, what can users expect?
So, our history is actually from film festivals. That's really where our AR started from, Tribeca, Sundance. We were taking projects to festivals where people would wear a HoloLens or Magic Leap headset and have like a very immersive kind of experience. We would build sets, we would have live actors, we would make holograms. So, we were coming from this like very expansive idea of what we thought AR could be. And, if you asked me a couple years ago, and people asked me a couple years ago, and I always insisted that we don't want to do mobile AR. Like the whole point of doing AR is to move away from mobile phones, because, it's looking at your palm at a flat rectangle doesn't feel like the most intuitive way of engaging with all this information.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the whole point. But, 2 years ago, when after having done a lot of these festival experiences, we were like, okay, you can't really develop a medium without having an audience.
Yeah.
The whole, it's more important. Like, do we want to spend the next 3-4 years like in a lab making interactions for headsets that no one's going to use, or do we want to spend the same time actually making things that we can culturally and socially understand what this medium should do, what people want it to do, how it's going to operate? So the mobile thing just kind of became important at that time. And over the last year and a half, we were a very specific app. We were basically doing realistic holograms of various celebrities that you could record videos with. And the intention wasn't because we love celebrities or because we love TikTok videos, like nothing to do with it.
But you do. Yeah.
I mean, really, like the main thing was, what can we offer on mobile AR that Snapchat and Instagram cannot offer right now?
Yeah.
And, realistic holograms, like we knew that's going to blow people's mind, that people are going to have strong reactions to that. So that's what we started doing, and we kind of like figured out a good model where it's pretty expensive, but we figured out a way where it would just be expensive enough that we could pull it off. And, we got to Lil Nas X, who ended up having like the biggest song in the world and, we had a hologram with it, and we ended up being kind of top 30 apps on the App Store. So we were doing really well. We had raised $2 million, not a huge chunk or anything, but we had enough capital to get going. So now we're kind of stuck in the middle because we've transitioned from that model, but the app is still half that app. So now this is not announced yet, but we're in the midst of closing a pretty significant seed round that is going to let us grow our team very significantly over the next, 5-6 months. I want to be at like 40 people or 50 people in like roughly a year. And, our attention now is going to like really building a world scale AR platform, which is really where we're trying to take the app, where essentially you have your jetpacks and hoverboards, and you're going around the world collecting assets that are all NFTs, similar to Pokemon Go. So you're finding different hotspots, you're going to a location, and you're minting on location, and then you're trying to see what you find, and then all of that stuff gets traded on OpenSea. So it's kind of play to earn in the sense that you find assets in the physical world.
Dude, yeah, there's so much we've talked about it. The nature of like treasure hunts, geocaching, like that world. There's so much fun in there, and NFTs are ripe for it, but very few folks have done anything to tap into that, like passion that people have for that kind of thing. Yeah. This sounds exactly up the alley.
I'm just trying to figure out, Eathan, are you a hoverboard guy or are you a jetpack guy?
Yes. It's a good question. Actually, it's interesting to bring that up, the topic of the hoverboards. I look at watching Back to the Future, right? Back in, when did that come out, in the 80s or early 90s or something like that?
80s.
We're still holding on to so many sort of, I love this term. I feel like my friends and I came up with it independently to describe our college band, retro future, right? But there's this kind of idea, these ideas that are retro.
You guys did not come up with retro future.
I think we might have, actually. I do think we might have.
You're making the claim?
Yeah. No. I think it's pretty strong. It's pretty strong. This was back in probably 2002 or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is not just recently. Anyways, we love the term.
That's
right?
a good name for a band too.
Yeah, we called our music retro future music, and then our friend released an album and called it retro future music a few years later, and we were kind of upset. But anyways, that's totally aside from the point. What I want to bring in here is, Back to the Future, the DeLorean, the hoverboards, all these things that sort of inspired people's magical versions of the future. We've had, famous technologists say, like, I want my hoverboard. Where's my hoverboard? And yeah. I think you're bringing us at least one step closer to that with the hoverboards. I mean, can you tell us about the collection coming out and, the conceptualization around that? What you're excited about?
Why did you choose the number you did? Like
555?
Yeah.
Well, so, we did 1111 jetpacks, right? And, the intention with that, obviously, people are using these angel numbers or whatnot, right? Like my birthday is 11th January, so I use a lot of ones and zeros because of that. But, I think it's kind of subversing, it's subversive, like, in nature, because how does the traditional world price things? It's usually $299. It's like the 99. The 99 to me represents like just, like you're trying to mislead people. You're trying to make them feel something is cheaper than it is by removing a cent just to get that 2 instead of the 3. It's just everyone knows it's 3. You kind of read it as 3 in your head, but still it's like, the intention behind it is to kind of mess with you in that manner. So by going 111 or 555, it's just like, it's like we're choosing the number because it's fun, because you get to choose numbers, right? Like you have some leeway in what numbers you choose, and we just want to make them fun. And like fun is more important than the point cent you get off to change someone's perception of your product or something, right? So that's kind of the intention.
I took you in a little segue. I think Ethan's question too is just like what is it about the hoverboards? Like why hoverboards, and what's the collection?
Clearly they have a sort of aerial, inspiration, just like the jetpacks.
Yeah, well, the jetpacks really there is this like retro future kind of like nostalgic appeal of the future in this weird.
If we had
kind of
NFTs
way, right?
back in 2002, I could prove that I invented the term retro future. By the way, anyways,
I'm sure you're going to be sending us some kind of proof tomorrow or tonight, even.
Okay, please do. I can assure you that retrofuturism existed for the early 2000s, but
I love this.
But so the jetpacks was you want to do items that can do things that physically are not possible, but you also want items that are somewhat tangible. They're not too magical that they're just like not approachable, right? Like that's kind of how we were thinking about it. So jetpacks, they let you fly. So when we launched them and we saw so much engagement, sold out so quickly, and the community kind of exploded, and there was all this conversation, our first reaction was we need to grow the community. Like we need more holders, because having holders actually, once we had it, I think you realize how powerful that is, because that's the new model. Really, that's like the whole NFT thing. Like it's really that it used to be that you had a company with a team, and as the leader of the team, you had like 20, 30, 40 people working under you that were kind of working together on a mission, had some kind of familiar feeling with each other and friendships and family and whatnot. And now we're in this position where you have that, but then you have another 800 people that are very tied to you and your success and actually want to help you and want to go out of the way to help you, because it's not a product you're buying. This is not an iPhone you're buying or something, right? This is actually an investment in many ways. And it's an investment in the brand. It's an investment in this perceived value that the brand supposedly holds. So we saw that and we thought this is really powerful. So we got to do two things right now. We got to reward these existing holders, because when you just launch something and it has a big price floor, suddenly, what sustains it? The only thing that sustains it, that if it stays like that for a moment, at least a couple of weeks. If it stays like that for a couple of weeks, people are like, okay, this is what the value of this asset is. Otherwise, it's all fleeting. We've seen this happen with so many collections that come out and after the reveal just crashes. Like, I won't name names, but right now, like a lot of collections are way under 1 ETH that were like 7, 8, 9 ETH before. Mm-hmm. So it was really important that, if we have just landed on a collection that suddenly has a big floor, it's important that we show that we can sustain it for a few weeks at least. So by announcing hoverboards, we basically, announce as a reward mechanism for our holders to have enough incentive to hold, but it's not a random airdrop. It's actually a very high quality thing we're making that's actually more high quality than the jetpacks in many ways, because now we've done it once and we know how to do this better. We're going to make improvements all over the place. So the intention with the hoverboards very, very much was we want an item that can do flight, like jetpacks, but it can't overshadow the jetpack. And hoverboards hover over like 2 feet above the floor or something. They can't go up. They can go sideways and whatnot. They can't fly up like the jetpack can. Only if you have the jetpack and hoverboard together do you get both of those functionalities.
So depending on your mission of the day, you may need pull out your hoverboard or your jetpack.
Or you could wear both of them together.
Oh,
amazing!
Yeah.
Now, is there any additional access capability that a jetpack could provide in securing a hoverboard, or is it?
So every jetpack is gonna get a free hoverboard airdrop. So that's kind of how we've structured it. And then on top of that, we have a pro level jetpack that is the black jetpacks. they're going to get an airdrop and one whitelist spot to be able to mint. And then we have this trippy jetpack, which is the ultra rare jetpack. They're going to get 3 whitelist spots, but everyone's getting the same amount of hoverboards airdropped, but we created different whitelist spots. And that's been very like dramatic. Our community reacted strongly to that, or at least.
Wow.
I'm just stressed out, guys, because I thought we had a portfolio management strategy, but now we have to go back to the basics and revisit what NFTs we're getting tomorrow.
It's blown up. It's blown up every day.
This is not fair, man. Like I thought we had a plan. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the roadmap and congrats, by the way, on sort of further sort of growing your ecosystem and opening up new possibilities. What are the technology investments you're going to make? What else is on the roadmap in the future with these amazing flying objects? And I'm really curious. Like my mind is racing right now.
So, the kind of AR we're building, we like to think of it as object-oriented AR. And what I mean by that is things are not compartmentalized into filters. Every object is an app, right? The jetpack and the hoverboard are both apps that you can use together or without each other, or, on their own. You can combine it with other items, right?
So can a friend hitch a ride?
Yeah, actually. I don't know when this podcast is airing, but, we're one of the hoverboards we've not announced yet is actually a longboard that can fit 2 people.
Nice.
And so, the way we're doing stats is that's a new thing with hoverboards. We're doing actually statistics. So they have speed stats and handling and jump ability. And the way we've kind of structured it is the hierarchy isn't as clear as it is for most drops. You have some that are faster than others, but worse in handling. You have the longboard that can, fit 2 people, but has bad stats, I was kind of, the way I was thinking about it, I remember I pulled off an all-nighter and I got in bed and I was like, just my mind was racing. And I was like, you know what? When I was 13 in Pakistan, I got really into guitars, and I couldn't really buy an electric guitar because there just weren't music stores in the town that I was in. There were in bigger cities, but they're really expensive and out of reach. So I spent a lot of time on Ultimate Guitar forums and things like that, just reading like gear reviews. And gearheads, like when you get really into a certain thing, you start like talking about like, the maple wood and the humbucker pickups versus like this and that. And the combinations allow for all these like possibilities, but there isn't, it still depends on preference. It's not so hierarchical, right? So we wanted to build something that had some ability of preference and people could geek out and like go into details and, my hoverboard does this thing and it has this thing like yours, that kind of stuff. So the suite of hoverboards has those features in that manner. So I'm excited about that. Cool. But going back to your question about kind of next steps for us, our intention has always been we're building an AR platform. NFTs kind of have become a good way to do it in a insane manner where our community gets to kind of participate and have ownership in the game that's being built. But, the long-term future, the way I think of it is AR is a very powerful medium because it interfaces with the physical planet. And, everything that's happening in the metaverse space, it's already, you're seeing things like Axie and the wealth distribution and whatnot. But with AR, it's very tangible. We already saw a glimpse of this with Pokemon Go where, certain parts of town are getting more business, or like crowds of people are moving from one place to another, or people are like getting into car accidents. Like all kinds of physical consequences emerge from being able to basically like use incentive systems to move people on the physical world. So that's a really powerful tool, and a tool that's going to kind of, emerge and kind of further become more intentional over time, where companies are going to intentionally be able to affect people's behavior in those manners. And we want to do that, but in a community-owned fashion. We think that's the way to do that, where people actually own these assets and are, self-organizing and moving around the physical planet. And that starts to affect some real tangible things like border laws and, like demand supply of certain transportation. And like it just starts to play with the physical world in a very tangible manner. And the way we're building this game world is very much in that way, where people actually have a way stronger relationship to the physical world. That's the other thing, right? Like as we're going deeper and deeper into the metaverse and, all these like game worlds and whatnot, we need anchors to our physical planet. And this becomes a great way to bring a lot of these metaverse assets and incentive systems to motivate people to actually like do more with the world and get out, because that's still important, right?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, we talked with Harish Latlakar of Superworld, and I think he's a world traveler. He's been all over the globe himself, and I personally, and I think we all resonate with the spirit of we love the idea of the metaverses and all the things that we can achieve. We can do our podcast via Zoom. We started this podcast, remotely, basically, not even having.
This is the first time we've all met.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Right.
That's incredible. Wow.
Right.
But again, highlighting, the point I'm trying to make here is meeting is something special, and getting in the same physical space and being at a conference like this and, actually connecting and watching. I mean, I saw people literally at one of these NFT parties. Someone was like giving a toast and almost came to tears at the community they had built, in one of these NFT projects, but being able to be with them also in person and, hang out with them and resonate. So, cheers to this kind of spirit of, let's do lots of cool stuff with tech, but let's also bring us together in the real world in cool ways.
Yeah, man. Yeah, amazing stuff. But we got to ask before we transition to edge quick hitters. Is there a roadmap of like cool shit like jetpacks and hoverboards, and what's next? So the roadmap,
let me just give you one. Yeah. So first I'm gonna give a disclaimer, which is this is not an official published roadmap. This is just me kind of telling you what I think the roadmap is right now. So people often, I say something in our town hall and people hold me accountable. And I'm like, no, we never officially published that. So the way we're doing this is we are going to release the hoverboards. Then we're going to be working hard. And we're hiring some serious people. We're making hires out of Activision Blizzard and Unity and just like gaming. Honestly, gaming is really key right now. I think product design and product development is overrated at this point, in my opinion. Where you have 1,000 engineers sitting in San Francisco optimizing one button. Like, I think that era is over. I think game design is more interesting. There are way more possibilities, and I think game designers have to do way more.
With play to earn and sort of avatars, it's exciting.
So we're building a strong game-oriented team, and next year is basically season 1 of the Mirrorverse, which is what we call our world, which is essentially the overlap of the physical world and the metaverse. And the intention with season 1 is that hoverboards and jetpacks are out, and now people are going to go find these other assets all over the planet. And there is a whole storyline to it, which I won't get into right now, but there are all these assets that are popping up in various parts of the world and these hotspots that now players can go to and then try to find them. And it's not just only a map-based game like Pokemon Go, but you actually have more in-app, like kind of in AR gameplay, where you try to basically retrieve these assets from these locations, and the locations are going to pop up all over the world. There are going to be certain, concentration areas where more assets are found. People are going to travel to those areas to try to get them. And as you find these assets, if you have a hoverboard or a jetpack, you actually have a better chance of easily finding more rare assets, essentially. So by being on a hoverboard or a jetpack, you kind of get a multiplier in season 1. And, we are very interested in basically setting up a renting marketplace for hoverboards and jetpacks as well, which is, essentially what that entails is that new players that are priced out of jetpacks or hoverboards can rent some from existing holders in order to basically get the same multiplier and the same value that they are getting in finding these other assets. And the way it will be structured is then those other assets become more useful in season 2. So by seeing the people who entered in season 0, which was jetpack and hoverboard, succeed in season 1, you basically know that you finding these assets in season 1 will put you in a good position in season 2.
Wow.
I love how people can still participate, right? And still get value, whether or not they own these expensive objects. So, it is a democracy of sorts, and people can work their way up to maybe affording one of these prized possessions at some point.
I think, it's in order for spaces like this to progress and not hit plateaus and slow down, you need enough avenues for newcomers to succeed. You can't compound value for early holders forever. You got to do it to a certain extent because that's why they're in early, but you can't do it forever. And I think that's, even with Bitcoin, now there are like all these other avenues of participating because you can't get the same returns on Bitcoin because the early holders are still the ones who are going to be getting the most compounding value. So by building a game world, you obviously have more control over, like how value is distributed. So the way we're trying to kind of build this is so that, even with Jetpacks and hoverboards, we have a whitelist, and people get on the whitelist, and there are ways to get on the whitelist. And the whitelist is designed to actually discourage whales. It's just designed to be like, something a normal person like puts in work to keep track of, and then goes and plays a game and does the thing so that they can get the thing, so they can actually extract and capture most of the value by then selling it. And the risk is being held by then the whales that are buying, hoping that it's going to appreciate after they've paid already a premium for it, right? So there are these strong like elements of distribution, and especially when you start doing that with the planet. I'm from Pakistan. When a bunch of assets are found in Pakistan, there are not going to be that many NFT holders in Pakistan, but so the assets are going to be way more rare because they're way harder to get to. So when people find those rare assets, they have way more of an opportunity of getting a significant upside when those assets then sell on the secondary market. So it's pretty interesting, like what tools it kind of enables.
Yeah, sounds like it, man.
And I know your roadmap is not set in stone, but I'd like to make a suggestion that we integrate the Mirrorverse with the Margaritaverse, and we place some sort of special item here on the third floor of the Margaritaverse.
I'm also going to say that Animoca Brands did agree to put some Edge of NFT race cars into their Rev Racing game, and our IP is totally open for you to do whatever you want with. If you want to do some Edge of NFT flying cars in your world, or have a podcast studio, like by all means, you have our verbal permission on the air.
Beautiful. The Edge of NFT DeLorean. Let's go. This is great, man.
Quick hitters?
Yeah, let's do some quick hitters. So Edge quick hitters. Fun, quick way to get to know you a little bit better. There's 10 questions. Looking for short, single word or fewer responses, but totally feel free to expand if you get the urge, okay? Ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, question number 1. What is the first thing you remember ever purchasing in your life?
When I was actually selling candy to my sister, and actually my grandfather would take me to like a wholesaler to get candy that I would sell more than retail price to my sister. So that's,
keep it
nice.
Wow.
Right.
Hey,
that is a true confession of sorts. So basically, your parents give your sister an allowance, give you an allowance, and you manage to take her allowance. Like that's
pretty much.
That's
and
amazing.
I was very professional with it. I actually had a physical like weigh system that I would just want to use it. So I would put the candies on it and a stone on the other side just because, the aesthetics.
That's awesome. I mean, she couldn't get it for any less than retail anyway, otherwise, right?
You did the work. Right? You went to the store.
Yeah. You can totally bring that convenience to the whole equation.
Question 2. What is the first thing you remember ever selling in your life?
I think we covered that.
What's the first? Yeah. It is. It's actually tied. This is the first time we have an answer that's actually completely linked.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Question 3 then. What is the most recent thing you purchased?
Jetpack.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to expand too much, but bots buy jetpacks, and like people sell to bots, often way under floor. And then the bots start the cycle of listing and relisting and like bringing the whole floor down, and you have to kill the bots. So I have to do that from time to time.
You're up back.
Yeah.
All right, on. Question 4 then. What is the most recent thing you sold? Dude, it's the 5 questions of Edge Quick Hitters.
We had Michael. We just had Michael Bramlage from Quid on the show, and one question was, or one topic he talked about was trying to increase liquidity on their platform. And then when we talked in Quick Hitters, he said that he was buying and selling.
Yes.
Anyways,
so awesome. Question number 5. What is your most prized possession?
Jetpacks.
Honestly, not. I mean, I have a 2011 Porsche Boxster that I enjoy very much, and it's I moved to LA, and I was like, well, you need a car to drive around LA, and I was like, okay, what is a car that I can buy that is something I'm not going to be able to buy again? And because I think we're going to have electric cars pretty saturating the market soon, so I was like, well, can I actually indulge in like, the epitome of the 80 years of the gasoline manual car? And I found this like pretty cheap Boxer secondhand. I enjoy very much.
I spend way too much time like looking at the cars on Facebook Marketplace, the exotic cars on there, the oldies and everything. So cool. Question number 6. If you could buy anything in the world, digital, physical, service, and experience that's currently for sale, what would that be?
Besides Jetpack.
Yes. I had my eyes on David Gilmour's guitar box, his touring like box for the guitar that was up at Christie's like a year and a half ago, and the estimated value was supposed to be $2,500. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna get that, and it ended up selling for $250,000. So I didn't. But I would love to grab like an original like drawing from the wall or something of that nature.
Right, man. Scott
This is like a Make-A-Wish Foundation show.
Oh my God, what's happening here?
So Scott Page, former sax player for
Pink Floyd and Cheap Trick and others.
Big fan of the show. Listens to our podcast all the time. We're collaborating with him on some stuff. I'm gonna set up a little meeting with us and Scott, and we'll see what we can do to help you out.
He was touring with Pink Floyd and collecting moments himself, like video moments and all that stuff.
And he's
artifacts,
releasing.
everything.
He's gonna do a lot of releases, and maybe
NFT releases.
Maybe we can convince him to do some stuff with you.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I will like buy his NFT if I get like whatever the corresponding item is.
Yeah,
so
keep an eye out.
Scott's probably listening, and he's like, "Yes, guys, thanks a lot."
Amazing.
So we'll figure it out.
So we got that one unlocked for sure. Yeah. Question number 7. If you could pass on one of your personality traits to the next generation, what would that be?
I think I'm pretty good with conviction once I like decide on a thing, like it's I think people can often just not make a decision. Yeah. Be stuck between answers, and often, you just got to sit down and like look at the pros and cons and make the decision, because then you can just have some conviction and follow through with it. It makes everything easier. So that's what I would say.
Right.
That's a good one.
Question number 8. If you could eliminate one of your personality traits from the next generation, what would that be?
I don't know if being unhealthy is a personality trait.
Well, what do you mean?
That works.
Well, I definitely have been like kind of pushing my body to the limit recently, kind of crawling out of bed, getting on my desk, crawling back in at like 2 a.m. and just that being my life for the last like, a while.
I can relate.
Yeah. So, I'm definitely like hoping that after I get back from this conference, like I'm gonna get my act together a bit.
Yeah.
Well, your eyes are clear. Your skin looks healthy.
Yeah.
I think you're still a young entrepreneur. I think you can recover.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, once again, I don't know if that's not really a personality trait per se, but I think future generations should be healthier.
There you go. No, that works, man. That works. Okay, a little easier. Question 9. What'd you do just before joining us on the podcast?
Right before coming here, I was at Time Magazine party with Keith Grossman, who's the president of Time Magazine, who is going to be participating in our round and is just a great friend. I helped Time Magazine kind of enter the NFT space when they sold their first cover. Yeah, so I was there.
Great.
Awesome.
That's so cool. And then last one, question 10. What are you doing next?
I'm going to go to this place called Terminal 5, which is the venue where Dreamverse will be happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we have kind of this room. We've built kind of a booth in which people are going to be able to see the hoverboard in action for the first time. So basically you go in, it's a photo booth, you kind of stand there and a camera starts recording video, and in the video, a portal opens in the wall out of which Amoeba comes in a hoverboard and just spins around for a while and then goes back, and you end up with a video that you get to take with you. And so I'm just going to go and make sure the booth is being set up.
We'll record that.
Gotta go check on my hoverboard.
Yeah, we'll record a little.
There you go.
We'll add that to the show because I certainly am looking forward to participating in that booth for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we'll do the demo there for all the folks that'll catch us on YouTube. That's amazing. Where should folks go, though, if they want to keep track of what you're doing, what you're up to, all the new projects, man?
I think Discord is honestly like kind of the social media of choice right now.
Okay.
I've always using Instagram more in my personal life, and Twitter just never really clicked for me. More recently, obviously the space operates in Twitter and Discord, so we've kind of, beefed up our presence. But the Discord server is really lovely. The community is there and people are talking to each other often, and we do town halls and updates on a very regular basis, multiple times a week. So it's definitely the best way to be a part of the community. And the whitelist opportunities that we're going to have for hoverboards are going to be available there as well. Obviously, if anyone listening has 2 to 3 ETH to spare, jetpacks are out and about, and as I said, that a hoverboard airdrop will be coming for all jetpack holders as well.
Well, until people see your demo tomorrow, we'll see what happens to that floor.
Yeah, that's gonna rise quickly. And what is that Discord so people can find it?
So I think the URL is discord.gg/Jadu, Jadu.
Okay, so pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be doing a giveaway also, I heard. Right?
Yes.
Want to tell our listeners what's
Absolutely. coming? So we are going to be giving away a hoverboard. So this is an unrevealed hoverboard, basically. So, whoever wins the giveaway gets the hoverboard prior to the reveal, so they could also land a rare one.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so generous. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, really, really excited to participate in whatever's next in your journey. So glad to meet you here in New York, and excited to see the demo tomorrow. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, most definitely.
Thank you so much.
All right, sweet. So check out our socials for all the details on that giveaway. We'll give you all the ins and outs of how we'll run that contest. We appreciate it. So I think we've reached the outer limit at the edge of NFTs for today. So thanks for exploring with us. We've got space for more adventures on this starship. So invite your friends and recruit some cool strangers to make this journey all so much better. How? Go to iTunes right now, rate us, and say something awesome. Then go to edgeofnft.com to dive further down the rabbit hole. And remember, we always invite you to co-create and build with us at Edge of NFT. We are unlocking a whole new way to connect and collaborate with us through our own NFT drop, Living Tree NFTs. Through this project, we'll be planting tens of thousands of real trees. This collection is not only a beautiful generative piece of art, but it will also be the foundation of everything we do with Edge of NFT and our community for years to come. On top of that, Living Tree holders like you will co-create and participate in our podcast and access exclusive events and killer contests. You'll be frontline for other NFT drops, as well as a long, bright future of branching opportunities to come. Get on the whitelist by dropping us a line at contact@edgeofnft.com or tweet at us at edgeofnft, and we'll share with you the steps required to get in the mix. Lastly, be sure to tune in next time for more great NFT content. Thanks again for sharing this time with us today.
All right, go on in. Yeah. Beware, it's gonna be pumping out of that wall right there. So.
Okay. Am I gonna see it over here?
Yeah.
You're literally gonna levitate.
Right here.
I'll see it here.
Yeah. Check out that hover.
Now what do I do?
Yeah. Good expression.
Whoa! Oh my gosh, what just happened?
You're all set. And I'll take down your email just where we can send you the video.
Okay, perfect.
What's your email? EA.
The views and opinions expressed on the Edge of NFT podcast reflect solely those views and opinions of the show creators and its guests. We're learning as we go, just like you. Please make sure to do your own research. Our podcast is not financial advice. There are multiple strategies, and not all strategies fit all people. We understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk.